All right, guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of Watch Me Wrench with your host, Mr. Wrench. All right, so it's not going to be such a wonderful video. Let's just get that out of the way. So I just want to talk quickly and go over what went wrong with the fuel system. Perhaps I should try to explain how the stock fuel system works. Now again, I'm not a professional mechanic, I'm not an engineer, so hopefully I get it right. You know, this is just what I've learned over the past several months. So let's go over the very complicated fuel system that these Corvettes have. First off, you have two fuel tanks, one on the driver, one on the passenger side. The fuel tanks are connected via a crossover tube. See that big flexible pipe over there? Okay, so that crossover tube is containing some plastic hoses that run from the driver's side tank to the passenger side tank, and the fuel will cross over via those passages. Now inside this tank on the driver's side you have a fuel pump, and at the bottom of the fuel pump you have a fuel pressure regulator built into like the housing. And on this side you don't have a fuel pump, but you have another fuel pressure regulator built into the bottom of the housing. All right, so that's just a basic overview of how the system is set up. Now, behind that wheel liner is my external fuel pump and my fuel pressure regulator. Okay, so what went wrong? Okay, now when you mount an external fuel pressure regulator and the fuel pump out here like I did, the system won't maintain at least 54 psi. So you need 54 pounds of fuel pressure in order for the transfer system to work correctly. But when you mount the external fuel pressure regulators, when you're coming to an idle or slowing down, the system won't maintain 54 psi. So what you have to do is you have to block off the fuel pressure regulators that are in each tank. So Company X sent two of their aluminum billet fuel pressure regulator block offs. It kind of looks like a top hat. Okay, so Company X sent one for this side and one for that side. The two block offs were basically solid. So it plugged up this one completely and plugged up this one completely. But what wound up happening is those things did not work on my setup. I don't know if other people have this, and I don't see how they're going to work, and you'll understand as I talk further. So by blocking off completely this one and this one, the car was not transferring fuel from this tank. So what happened was, as I was driving the car, I was only using up the fuel on this side, and my camera is crapping out. Okay, so what happened was I was only using up fuel in the driver's side tank. It wasn't transferring over from the passenger side. So this tank remained full and this tank was empty. So while I was braking in the clutch for all those miles, the fuel pump in the driver's side tank was getting burnt up because it was starving for fuel. So as a result of Company X's fuel pressure regulator block-offs not working properly, I wound up burning up this fuel pump and also the charcoal canister somehow was full of fuel. So I wound up having to get a new charcoal canister for the car. So that's what happened. So we went with an aftermarket E85 compatible in-tank fuel pump, which we put in here. And then we contacted Lingenfelter. Now, Lingenfelter also makes those fuel pressure regulator block-offs for the C6 Corvette. Lingenfelter will sell you one for the driver's side, which is a solid billet aluminum block-off. It looks like a top hat. But on the passenger side, the block-off actually has holes drilled into it, which allows the system to maintain 54 psi so that the transfer system works properly. So I'm just puzzled how the hell Company X sends you two solid ones, but yet Lingenfelter sends you one solid and one that has holes drilled into it so that your system can maintain 54 psi so that the transfer system works correctly. So I don't know how the hell two companies sell you the same products, but one has holes drilled into it and the other one doesn't. So anyway, Lingenfelter saved the day. We now have no issues and the car runs perfect. It's been on the dyno, it did really well. So that is my fuel system disaster story. So I don't know if Company X's fuel pressure regulator block-offs work for other people, but it didn't work on this car. Cost me a fuel pump and a charcoal canister. So that's it. So if you're going to do a project like this, contact Lingenfelter and buy the fuel pressure regulator block-offs from them. Learn from my mistakes. Okay, so before I forget, I took the car to JTM Motorsports, and while they had the car in, right before the car went on the dyno, JTM Motorsports came up with a recommendation, and they wanted to convert the car into a return style fuel system, because these cars have a deadhead fuel system. Basically the fuel comes into the fuel lines, into the fuel rails, and it just ends here. So they explained that having a return style fuel system, the injectors don't have to work as hard and it gives them better tuning capabilities. Not exactly sure how, but that's what I'm told, and I've actually read that too. So what they had to do was they had to modify the fuel rail, the Holley fuel rail on the driver's side. They took the fuel rail off and they milled about, well, I think, 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch off the back. And the reason why they had to do it is because there's absolutely no room to get a fitting back there. If you remember when I was installing this, I originally wanted the crossover tubes back there, but you couldn't get any type of fitting back there because the firewall's right there. So what they did was they milled, I think it was 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch off the fuel rail, and then they took a 90-degree elbow, they cut one end off and welded it to the fuel rail, and now we have a return style fuel system. That's how we had to do it. Actually, that's how JTM Motorsports had to do it. So that's just one thing I wanted to share. Alright guys, that's it. Next video will be the dyno video showing the results too. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. And if you click the like, subscribe, share button, I really appreciate it. And if you have a nice positive comment you want to leave, go ahead and leave it below and I'll get back to you. Thank you and have a great day.